Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It's a new week. It's a blank canvas. Time to paint some pictures and tell some football stories with 3 of your favourites. 2 maybe not so much of late, but still, you love them.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Evening, squaddies. We'll get stuck right into it at ease. Thanks to everyone for joining. For those listening on replay, don't forget to make your comments heard in the YouTube comments section. And to those listening on audio, cheers. And thanks for making us part of your day too. We've been very strict with our yellow cards this season. Lead judges surprisingly on time today. Tom Canton just made it. But yellow card goes to Dan Potts, not for his comments about Mikel Arteta, but he did show up 2.1 minutes late. So, Pottsy, your first yellow of the season.
Mate, I might get a red if this carries on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Welcome back, Pottsy. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, likewise, man. Big up for having me. Big up to all the squaddies. Big up to Lee and Tom and yourself. So it's been too long. So pleasure to be back on, man. Pleasure.
All righty. Mr. Tom Canton, how you doing, mate?
All good, mate. All good. How are you? What's so funny?
You seem miserable.
Do I?
Yeah. Oh, you'd be smiling, Tom. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't know why I'm giving off this vibe. I'm fine. I'm genuinely. I had a lovely risotto that I cooked from scratch. I'm good.
All right.
Good, mate.
You had that like bouncer look. You ain't getting in the club with your black t-shirt on. Do you know what I mean?
Cronky in January.
And of course, back my mate and also a potential double winner, Lee Judges in a semi and maybe about to do a cup double. Judges, welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you can see, bubbly and smiley. That's how you got to be. Right?
All right, let's get stuck into it, squaddies. You know how it goes. Keep your comments coming in throughout the show. I'll put them up. It was quite a dismal first half. I know you guys have talked about this on your show. So we'll try and do a different twist to everything. It really was dire. I messaged Tom on Instagram and he posted a picture of, Leicester and whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. And then in the second half, a substitution is made, everything changes. And Mikel Arteta pulls out his Merino box of tricks. Super Tom, you were there. We'll start with you. I mean, he seemed like a natural. He just, his movement, his positioning, his burst from, positions in midfield and at the back, timing impeccable. Do we keep rolling the Merino dice?
I haven't got much of a choice, to be fair. It's not, there's too many other options that we've got. And, I thought his goals were very, very well taken indeed. The leap was excellent. The timing of his run was great. The cross from NWANERI was sublime, who on the day deserved far more than a single assist based on his own efforts that game. And then a second goal is a finish that, you'd expect the top strikers in the world to finish off. It's not an easy finish, that's for sure, to put it into the bottom right-hand corner off the back of a first touch from another brilliant cross from Trossard. But yeah, we don't have much of an option, unfortunately, because we didn't do what we needed to do in January. And as a result, we're now very, very short and trying different things. I thought that the biggest reason, if anything, to kind of push Merino more into the starting 11 in a advanced position, I'm reluctant to call it a striker because I don't feel like it would necessarily be a striker role. I think it'd be more of like an advanced midfield role where you've got 2 kind of wide players playing more further forward than him, and his timing of his runs needs to be important. But I think the biggest reason why you would start him is just the lack of, anything from Raheem Sterling and his performances in the game. And so therefore you're kind of, again, looking at who on earth you're thrust into the lineup, and I think it's got to be Merino, surely.
Potsy, we've spoken, and to be fair, I think most pundits and YouTubers have wanted to see more from Mikel Merino. I don't think anyone had him as the summer signing. It takes a while, of course, to get used to the pace of the Premier League. Graham Hunter, I sent you guys the clip, called it. I mean, it was just wow. He said to me last week, keep faith in this guy. He's not only a wonderful football player, he's superb off the pitch. His mentality is bang on, and he will get crucial goals for you. Do you feel like eating a little humble pie on Mikel Merino, or is it too soon to call that with a little whipped cream on top?
I don't know if we can eat humble pie for someone who's coming as a midfielder who's not playing in midfield now, because he's not good enough, so he now has to go up top. I don't know if that's eating humble pie. I suppose I could eat a bit.
Oh, what?
Saying it, say again.
Did you just say he's not good enough to play midfield, so he has to play up top?
Well, he ain't getting on midfield, is he? So now he's not better than Partey, he's not better than Rice, he's not better than Odegaard. So he's obviously not good enough to start for us. So maybe he'll have to go and play up top now.
All right.
Unless you disagree and think he's better than Partey or Rice, but I don't. I don't think he's anywhere near. You know, that's my honest opinion. I don't think he's done anything this season to make me think, oh, what a player this guy is. But he's come up trumps at the weekend, and thank God he did, because we were a mess. Oh my word, it was embarrassing going forward. So I suppose I can eat a little bit of humble pie with Cecil, because he suggested playing Merino up top. Robbie suggested playing Calafiori up top, and I'm glad they went with Cecil and not Robbie. Let me tell you that, because we're now in a position where we've taken 3 points when we really did not look like doing it. Let's be real. I mean, there was only really Ethan that had any kind of chance going forward. The others were a bit of a mess, really. Look, I don't mind Merino. He's all right. I think he brings some attributes to the game that we perhaps don't have in terms of his physical presence. And we went old school, didn't we? Put the big boy up top and lump it up to him. That's what we've been doing with Havertz. We haven't got anything like Havertz now because he's injured, and we bought nobody in January. And Merino, I suppose, has got the physical imposing attributes that I think we were lacking, to be fair, at the weekend. Trossard, I don't think, did enough. Sterling, hilarious. And then you've got Ethan, who at 17 years old is the guy that we're all wanting to see more of, because he's a bright spark. So, yeah, I don't think we're eating humble pie with Merino. I think we would be if he was our proper Granit Xhaka replacement. I think a lot of people would be saying, crikey, I didn't think he was this good. But because he can't get in the side, we're now having to lump him up top. And it's just the position we're in now, going for a title with this, Merino up top. Let's hope that everyone's as bad as Leicester. Otherwise, this is going to be a long end of the season.
Judges, I'm going to just mix it all up because I think it all interplays in the conversation. I tweeted after the game that I can't see if Mikel's not going to be forgiving of Kivior for his mistake against Bayern Munich in the semi-final of the Champions League. We've seen him be ruthless. It's not like Sterling made mistakes. I mean, the offside, definitely. It was like schoolboy stuff. I felt bad for the guy. I really did have empathy for him. It felt like a guy he's not even in the twilight of his career, but it felt like the juice was all gone. His whiff in front of goal, it's just not worked out. I mean, don't you have to, and we've seen Mikel roll the dice if something works. I can't see Sterling starting a game for Arsenal again. I think Mikel would rather play Merino up front. And if he has to, under desperate circumstances, Sterling comes on. How do you see it?
Yeah, I see it as that now. Like, you know, listen, the first 70 minutes of that game was bleak as the weather. It was cold, wet, and horrible, and it was just, you know, and nothing to excite you in the game. But watching it back, I've watched the game back. You know, I have to say Leicester impressed me defensively more than what I thought. I thought it was just a poor performance from Arsenal, but they did defend very, very well, kept their shape really well. But what we had was two players up there that were just fish out of water, like, you know, and that was Trossard as well. I thought he was, you know, shocking as well. But as soon as Merino come on, it sort of give Trossard a release, and he played really well. And the team actually played for that 20 minutes really, really well. We had a platform. The bonus for that is that Merino scored goals as well and took them as good as any striker would. You know, trust me, that second goal is not an easy finish. it is not an easy finish. He makes it look easy. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. I've seen the sort of play Havertz do there, and then we've seen a cross when it's come off his shoulder and things like that. That was a neat finish, the first one with a header. Great cross. He nearly had a hat-trick because he's run for I think it was Timber put the cross in. He's really good centre-forward play. If you have a look at it, and go back and have a look at the NWANERI goal, his first goal from the NWANERI cross, sorry. He has to check his run and then go again. A lot of players would have just carried on going if they weren't smart and got offside. So he knows exactly what's going to happen when NWANERI puts the cross in. He makes his move, gets free. It's a very, very good header, and it's not just the header; it's actually movement as well. So everything that he'd done from a centre foot, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that was an added bonus. But the best thing that he'd done was he gave us a platform up front. He gave us a focus up front. You know, we could get players then like Declan Rice, like Odegaard, could have an option of a ball going forward, where for 70 minutes, it was really like get the ball either sideways back or you know, that was it. If it was to go forward, it'd be forward in the wide areas. And realistically, Leicester knew that was going to happen and set traps, and we couldn't get through up. But once he come on, there was different options for us, and we looked a lot better. Not going to get overboard. We'll see what happens on a game against West Ham. I think that what will happen, it'll free up Trossard a little bit on the left-hand side. NWANERI was fantastic on the day, but I also think it'll help out our midfielders in being in there. So, listen, masterclass, lucky so-and-so, who cares? You know what I mean? I don't care. We got the result. And I've been to places, we went to Leicester a couple of seasons ago when they got relegated, when we was on a good run with forwards and only won 1-0 there, like, you know. Sometimes you get those results. I think that, you know, if you have a look at all the top teams, and that includes Arsenal when we was in our pomp, Manchester City and all that, I bet they've got 3 or 4 1-0 wins in there, and probably one of those results against one of the teams in the bottom half of the table or even in the bottom 3. It happens. It's not easy. They were scrapping for their lives. And the other thing I think that you have to take into account here, which I think was a good thing, there's part of that game where Leicester think to themselves, do you know what? A point's good for us here. A point's good for us here. So we're not going to go gun-ho and all that. Like, let Arsenal force it, and then we actually maybe catch them, which happened with the Miles Skelly thing at the back there. So you have to look at that, like, and say, like, that last 20 minutes, 10 minutes, we were the team that had to take the gambles and maybe leave a few things open, and we didn't. We got the chance. Once we took the chance, it was our game. So I get it. For 70 minutes, it's abysmal, and it's definitely forgettable. I'm actually saying, what the hell am I doing here at some stage? But we got the result and got it done. So I'm going to look at the positives, but the West Ham and Nottingham Forest game will tell us a lot what's going to happen, but also what's happening with Liverpool the next week or 2 weeks. The next 2 games are just.
We'll get on to that in just a minute, because there was definitely. Listen, we're in survivor mode. It's the eye of the tiger. Do you know what I'm saying? And by hook or by crook, we got to figure out if we can do this for 13 more games. Is it 13 or 12? 13 more games? Yeah. Which is a tall order, considering we do have West Ham, Man United, Chelsea, Fulham, and that's 3 London derbies, you know, up until the beginning of April. It's a tall order, but I want to focus on a mega positive, which is happening. I've talked a lot about Miles Lewis-Skelly because he's played more. The 2 stories and the positives of this entire season are Lewis-Skelly and NWANERI. To hear other people talk about him in the manner in which they are, I don't like the comparisons to Messi, like, you know, call your jets, everybody. But Tom, he is at 17 years old. He was the don of that game. He bossed that game. I want to ask you guys 2 questions here as well, because he needs to be protected. We're now relying on a 17-year-old to put the team on his shoulders. We've done this before. We've seen how it ends. You know, overplaying Fabregas, overplaying Wilshere. Patino was the next white hype. Didn't work out for him. You know, Maitland-Niles, Reece Nelson, Emil Smith-Rowe. We've seen this video over and over again. Lewis Skelly and NWANERI seem to be cut from a different Haaland cloth that is a la SAKA. But I'm worried about, I just want to wrap him up in bubble wrap and cotton wool. Tom, we need to protect him, but he also needs to play now until the end of the season. And I'm wondering, like, if Saka's fit, if Havertz is fit, if everyone's fit, does he get a sniff? Does he play? Like, how do we handle this? How do we handle this when everyone's fit as well?
Yeah, so on the first point, you're right. He has to play, at least in the short term. Martinelli, of course, we expect to be back in March, which will lessen the burden to a degree. But having not done anything in January, it doesn't do too much for us. And why would you anyway? Like, at this point in time, the level of product that we're seeing from him has been startling. You know, he's the most likened player to Bukayo Saka in the team in terms of the way in which he can cut off the right and hit a left-footed strike, or a right-footed strike, as we learned as well at the weekend too. Is very impressive with both feet. And there's obviously a reason why we were gradual in the way in which we introduced him over the course of the season. There was a lot of calls, me included, to see him start and get more minutes earlier in the campaign, particularly when Ødegaard was missing. Are we benefiting now from that gradual introduction? We saw, of course, he got that injury at Brighton. You know, he started to begin games as a 17-year-old. You make that step up. It's a really significant step up physically. And maybe that Brighton game where he came off at halftime with an injury that saw him miss the next few weeks was something of that is kind of what happens when you make that significant step up to, you know, the senior level at 17 years of age. So it was, I think, in some ways, a vindication of the patience. But now we are benefiting from that gradual introduction. But we haven't, as we said, got much choice. And NWANERI has to step up, and Arteta is asking his players to step up. There's a lot to do with the system as well. It's not just about go out there, have fun, enjoy. You have to be able to play in the way the manager wants you to play, and the system that the manager has wanted to implement as well. I think that the negative side of this is that I think it's deplorable that we can have a 17-year-old sharp 2 30-year-olds as much as he is. And Sterling and Trossard have to take a significant amount of responsibility as two players that are on significantly more money, have had a significant number of years over NWANERI in the league, have, you know, won things. And you're looking at that and going, how can this 17-year-old kid be this much better than both of those two? It'd be fine if it was like a one-off game, but it's consistent. We're seeing him, you know, do more in games, look to be more direct, look to be more impactful. Trossard's real only kind of moment in the game was the assist for Merino towards the end of the match. Outside of that, he didn't do too much. Sterling was deplorable. Some offside for both of those two players were unforgivable. Some of the offsides that they were called for. It's just lazy. And when you're missing as many players as we are, you need your experience and senior figureheads to step up and be counted. And, you know, the only thing that we counted yesterday was the amount of steps it took for Sterling to walk off the field when he was subbed. So I'm looking at NWANERI as a very exciting and brilliant young player, but I'm also looking at it as a worrying sign how much better he looks than two very senior figures in the team.
Potsy, a lot of people in the chat are saying that, you know, it's a happy accident for Mikel Arteta with Miles Lewis-Skelly and NWANERI. Listen, they're not in the academy just because they're a happy accident. They're in the academy because they're the future and they're being prepared to play. I know that you have your thoughts on Mikel. Do you think, though, at the weekend, gambling, would you call it a gamble? Would you call it no choice? Would you call it luck? Playing Merino up front, Miles Lewis-Skelly so-called falling into his lap and NWANERI, like some fans think. What's your take on his box of tactical tricks, even if he has any? For you, Dan, can we keep this machine rolling? Sometimes in adversity comes really good stuff. What's your take on all of that?
Yeah, so I think what Mikel Arteta has to look at is, it's potentially a little bit lucky. I think you need luck, though. to be fair, in this game. Liverpool have had a little bit of luck. It's time that we had some. So maybe it's a little bit lucky in terms of how we've won the game. I think what he's got to look at, though, and what he's got to try and work out is he can't look at the youth academy to save him all the time. This time, it definitely has, because I think they've been the two positives this season. I think these two kids look special. I don't think they look good. I think they look great, both of them. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly coming through at that position, it looks absolutely fantastic. I never saw him as that left back. I thought he was going to be a midfielder that could bring us a little bit of box-to-box athleticism. Perhaps he will one day, but certainly at the moment, he's now down the left back position. I look at Ethan and I just think you're the only one at the moment that gets me out my seat, which is sad, really, to be at this stage of the season and only have a 17-year-old that's got any hope of us getting us out of a seat, but that's where we're at. I think you look back, Soph, to when he was under pressure last time, Mikel Arteta. I don't think he's under any pressure personally. It's like some people do, because I think he's here, whatever. But I think if there's any time to look at what we might need to win this season and who he's going to look at, again, he's looking at the kids like he did a few years ago with SAKA, Martinelli and Smith Rowe, where they appeared out of the youth academy. Now, all of a sudden, he's doing the same thing with Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan NWANERI, and they've been absolutely phenomenal. Like, I really can't give enough superlatives for how good these two have been and how consistent they've been as well. And I look at what Ethan's doing at 17. It's better than what SAKA was doing at 17. I look at what Miles Lewis-Skelly's doing at 18. And people might not like me to say this and say, calm down a little bit. But I am getting Ashley Cole vibes from when Ashley Cole first burst onto the scene when he was a youngster in that position. And I don't think he'll be as good as Ashley Cole, because I don't think we'll see another Ashley Cole. But if we can get anywhere near that level, my God, we've got a proper talented boy. And, you know, I disagree with Judges. I actually think he knew what he was doing in that defensive play. I thought it was brilliant awareness from him. I thought the fearlessness and the confidence and the intent on both these kids is just been unbelievable. And I love the fact they're drilled into it from a young age. I love the fact that they've got the confidence to show and express what they've got. And I think you've got to give a little bit of praise to Mikel Arteta for allowing them both to express what they've got. And they clearly are talented lads. Now, what's really kind of lastly thing to say on this is let's try not to, I don't want to say ruin them in terms of their careers, but let's not absolutely butcher them and slog them like we have some of the other players this season. I don't want to be seeing these kids absolutely sort of knackered. The problem we've got is how do we do that now? Because we haven't done enough in the last couple of transfer windows to allow them to have a bit of rotation. So I hope that they have got enough in the tank to keep going. I love what I see. I think Ethan at the weekend showed that he can be anything that he wants to be. And I hope that, you know, he looks like he's got the right mentality. So I hope that we now look after him, because he's a special boy, mate. Special talent.
Judges, we know you got to go at 7:30, so I'm going to get you on this one and totally.
Oh,
that's Tony's phone. It's in here somewhere, Tony. Sorry about that, guys.
Behind yourself.
Tony's working on a show and she lost her phone, so she's got to find it. Apologies. It is down there somewhere, Tig. Brilliant stuff. Judges, so when you look at kind of, we talked about Liverpool luck, the two young academy players coming into the mix. Liverpool, I mean, I really thought Wolves were going to get an equaliser. Want to get you out on this one for you. We've got those 3 London derbies coming up, Forest, Manchester United as well. The Champions League is going to kick in at some point. Liverpool could be 10 points ahead before the next time we play. Them dropping points seems more unlikely every single week we watch them play. They just seem to have it all this season. Do you start thinking about putting all the eggs in the Champions League basket? Are you going to start looking at certain games? If the gap is smaller, fine. But if the gap goes to 10 and you're looking ahead, you don't want to lose Saliba. You don't want to lose NWANERI now. You don't want to lose, you know, anybody. How do you manage that process? Do you say, you know what, we got no chance in the Premier League. We've got to save everyone for the Champions League. And we've got a thin squad anyway.
I think that's dangerous. I do think that's dangerous. I think, listen, we've got Man United in between those two Champions League games. We had Aston Villa in between those Champions League games, and he got the team selection wrong. Go with what you think. I think at the end of the day, you can rotate a little bit. I think he's in a fortunate position with the defensive side of it. You can rotate. You can put Ben White in. You can put Calafiori in. There ain't a problem there. But with the front three, you've just got to go with it. He's the one that's left it with no choice. But I don't know if beginning of March. Tom might know a little bit more whether Martinelli will be back by then. I don't think that he probably will, but he will be back after that. So I think at the end of it, look, listen, we've got this next two games. Swing is an important thing. We'll see what happens on Wednesday with Aston Villa, Liverpool, and then they've got Manchester City. They could easily lose both of those games. I know if that was Arsenal, we're going away to Aston Villa and away to Manchester City in a week, we wouldn't be feeling too confident of getting 6 points. Even if we had everybody fit, you'd be going for, might get a result against Villa, but you take a draw at the Etihad, So listen, if they win those two games, you've got to applaud them and go from there and see what happens, But if they were to lose those two games, who knows? And I don't think we should give up on the title until it's mathematically impossible to win it. That's how I see it. The Champions League, let anything can happen in those two games. I think that probably there's too many good teams in there for that. But you just got to hope that players step up and all that. And just quickly on Nwaneri, I don't care how old he is. I'm glad that he's playing because he should be playing whether everybody's fit or not. He's that good. I don't, you know what I mean? Like if
what happens when Saka's fit and Mikel's favourite guy Havertz is back? What happens?
He's got to come in the middle, and he's got to come in the middle, play the 10. I had a guy drop in the 8. Surely. They've got
to find a room for him, or use him as an impact or whatever. The good thing is you ain't got to rush Saka back. You can play him on the left. I think Nwaneri can play anywhere. To be honest, across that front three, he can go inside, outside with his right foot. Look at that right foot shot he played on Saturday. That was power. So he can cut in on the right, cut in on the left. I think he's good enough to play. And I'm never going to use this. He can't. He's a teenager sort of thing again, because for me, he's just quality. So I'll go with him all the time there. With Lewis Kelly, he can be moved out a little bit, given a bit of a break because he's had more games. But don't forget, he's a year older, 18, so his body is a little bit more physically better. In an ideal world, you want to leave Nwaneri out of a couple of games, but I'm not leaving him out. Nwaneri against any of the. Who are you going to leave him out against? I don't think you can.
Not now. You can't now. I mean, you can't now.
I wouldn't say, all right, what game can you look at and go, do you know what? We can rest him in this game here and get away with it. I think it's a massive gamble. I think you've got to play him every game now to the end of the season. 14 games. I think he can handle that. That ain't flogging him. 14 games, not flogging him.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Lewis-Skelly seems to have coped with the intensity of playing a lot of games. And Nwaneri, the two of them are fearless. They just don't care. They just play football, and it's quite incredible to watch.
And it's not luck. It's not luck.
No.
Was it luck for Liverpool when Steven Gerrard come through? No. Why? Because they know that we've heard about it. Nwaneri had a debut when he was 15. I think everybody had an idea that he might be good. Mm-hmm. Don't just give anybody a 15 a thing. So listen, they know he's good. They knew he was good, and they know. And not only that, every other club in the country knew it as well. That's why they try to sign him. You know what I mean? And also that shows a little bit more out because he weren't greedy. He knew what he wanted and everything like that. So he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got good people around him.
Thank God he didn't go, or we didn't let him go. We're going to let you go, though, judges.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Good luck in your semi-final. Don't be a stranger. At ease. Take care. Au revoir. Enjoy your next show.
I like that word. Au revoir.
Au revoir. See
you later, mate.
All of that.
See you later on.
Yeah, so bye-bye. Let's get rid of the old judges. Right. Tom, anything the lads have said that you want to listen, because we're kind of talking about it in different, orders, but let us know what you think. Roll with Merino. Keep that dice going. Vegas style. The wonder of Nwaneri, Mikel's box of tactical tricks with what he's got going. Does Sterling ever play again? And the Hammy Horror Show here. I was going to ask you guys this because we've seen it with Michael Owen. We've seen it with Reece James. The tear versus, the strain. Are you both worried that Havertz and Saka, Reece James, I'm sorry, he's not been the same player at all. Michael Owen was never the same player. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if they're identical injuries. Is there a part of you, Tom, that is a little bit worried, especially with Saka, like, for the future?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I'm worried that there's ramifications. That's football. Like, sometimes players return and have a really good response to being out for a long period of time, and sometimes they don't. And we won't know that until it happens. It's just, I do think there's some hypocrisies going on a little bit. I see a lot of, we've heard it here. Lee said it himself. NWANERI's got to play every game to the end of the season. And yet at the same time, I'm seeing people batter, Arteta for saying he's run these players into the ground. Like, I feel like there's a confliction there between us criticising the manager for, running players into the ground and then saying we've got to start a 17-year-old for every game for the rest of the season, despite the fact that we know that both Martinelli and Saka will return before the end of the season. So I think there's some issues. I think it's flavour of the month to kind of bash the whole injury situation. Injuries are part of the game. The biggest reason why injuries are as prevalent as they are is the schedule. That is the number one reason why injuries are as prevalent as they are.
It does feel like our it's kind of like the women's ACL situation in women's football. There are a lot of hamstring injuries lately. Players are being overplayed. The fact that we got like our forward line all have hammies, isn't there also though, Tom? Isn't there some culpability of squeezing as much as you want out of the starting 11, asking them to do so much off the ball defensively, the wear and tear on the bodies? Charles Watts said it here after the Wolves game when he was in the press box. He looked like he wanted to go out and help Havertz up off the pitch. He looked like he was dying, And there has to be, yes, it's football. Yes, they play a lot of games. For me, Kai Havertz should have been by the pool drinking a pina colada in Dubai, not tough training, knowing that he was in the situation that he was.
I don't agree with the Dubai point. I think that, he injured his hamstring by stretching to block a shot in a training drill. Like, it's an innocuous moment where he's just overstretched his leg and he's got a hamstring injury. He's fatigued. Everyone's fatigued. I just get a little bit frustrated, I think, with kind of this view of injuries and people thinking they're doctors when they're not, because the only data that we have, the only information that we know of is that the shorter time between games increases the chance of injury. Tendons and muscles need at least 70. You're gonna have to go to Dan because I'm losing my voice.
And I was going to say, Dan. Then why did Mikel play Havertz when the game against Newcastle in the League Cup was so over after they had scored their goals? He played, and correct me if I'm wrong, did he not play to the final whistle, Kai Havertz, in that match? These are the things. I'm not trying to bash on Mikel here. I'm just trying to call it as I see it. He's had opportunities to maybe rest. And when I say start them, but take them off a little bit earlier, Potsy. Well,
yeah, look, I keep
You're
saying
right,
it,
Tom.
but I'll say it again. I keep saying it, but I'll say it again. This is because the summer was so bad and January was even worse. If we actually would have done our jobs and brought the right players in, then we wouldn't have to be slogging these players out. It's because the backup either hasn't been good enough or we just hasn't been trusted. Raheem Sterling clearly isn't good enough, and Arteta worked that out very, 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 very quickly. So therefore, he's not played enough, and we've having to play Saka against Preston, Bolton. Last season, he was still on the pitch when we were 4 or 5 up against Lons. In other games he's been playing this season, we could have quite either rested him or taken him off. Same with Havertz. Havertz has been very durable for Arsenal in the last 2 seasons and played most of the games. And unfortunately, mate, we haven't actually got any backup, have we? So I say, who are we going to be playing? Why are they playing? Because no one else is there. That's why they're playing, and this is why there is a genuine point by Tom here. You can't say, "Well, I hope Ethan plays every game," and then say, "Well, what's he playing him every game?" The thing is, he's going to have to play every game now because we're in a position where there's absolutely nobody else. We are stuffed across the front line, unless we try and do something And that's what we now need to look at, is if Merino going to be that Fellaini type striker that everyone keeps mentioning? Is he going to have to be that guy now for a while? Because he might have to be. And that allows, when Martinelli comes back, then you have a rest to a couple of players. That is all we've got, unless we've got another kid, unless we play Salah and Dean, or we play somebody like that, Butler LD, or whatever it be. We're going to have to try and find a solution, because right now we have to find internal solutions. I blame Arteta. Yeah, I do, for the last couple of years. I don't think he's looked after Saka. I think that's quite clear. And as much as I was not so much towards Arteta for the Havertz situation, I think he can get injured at any point. And it wasn't so much really about how he got injured that bothered me. It wasn't so much that it was in Dubai and it was a stretch or it was an intense or whatever the hell everyone said it was. It's the fact that he got injured. That's what pissed me off. It was like, this was so obvious that this was potentially going to happen. And Martinelli going down a week previously in the Newcastle game. Once that window shut, I was like, right, no one can get injured. And then we lose 2 in a week. I'm like, nah, done. Tap me out. This season's done. Like, it is. I know we will. Come on, we can win the league and we win the Champions League. We can't, people. Let's just be real. The white flag's been waved. Not by everyone. Some people will believe and have the old copium, but we all know, don't we? Let's be real. That it's done and dusted. So, yeah, if we play like that against Leicester, we quite clearly aren't going to win anything. So we've got to hope for a miracle. That is where we're at.
Yeah.
Tom,
Sorry, go on, Soph.
No, I want you to jump in and respond to Dan. And also, the bench quite. I mean, if Merino can play a number 9, right, why can't Zinchenko play in the Trossard left role? I mean, this is the bag of tricks that I'm talking about. And also, is there anyone in that next level below the academy? Talk us through it.
I mean, not really. I mean, we've already got 2 players, of course. We've already got 2 players that are breaking into the team this season in Lewis Skelly and NWANERI. And when you look at teams that are competing for titles, as Arsenal are, the frequency of that happening is exceptionally low for those teams. The amount of players that have broken into Liverpool's starting 11 over the last, 5 years. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, maybe a little bit longer than 5 years, of course. And you've got Harvey Elliott. At Arsenal, we've been very blessed that we've had Saka, we've had Lewis Skelly, NWANERI, Smith Rowe, of course, break into that team in the last 5 years. Man City have had Foden and Lewis, and we're starting to see McAtee get a bit of an opportunity this season as well. It's not frequent. So the idea that, of course, when we're in this period of desperate need, that players in the under-21s are going to step up. The player that's on the bench is actually not even under 21. He's 22 years of age. He probably should have been released in the summer, but he stayed in Butler or Adeji. No disrespect to him. He's just, he's the same age as Calafiori, and he's not going to make it at this level. That Dan's spot on. I can't begrudge anybody that's given up after January, because it's so obvious what needed to be done. Everyone could see it, and it wasn't done. And it's a disservice not only to, in my opinion, the manager who called for it for weeks, but more so it's a disservice to those players that are now going to be run ragged until the end of the season.
Well said, Tom. Well said, bro.
Declan Rice has come out and said we're short, and you can see that we're lacking. Ødegaard has come out as well saying we're short. You can't. I'm not asking for Arsenal, because I don't think it was feasible to bring in your mad big money signing in January, but to bring no one, I'm
bringing up these slides, Tom, while you're talking for a reason, because it's amazing. I could do these slides every week. These are from shows like 2 or 3 months ago, right? And this is why I put them up, like the power versus who really has it. The players versus the manager, the in terms of system versus form, like everything that's happened this season. I could put these pictures up every single week and it is similar, right? So carry on. I just wanted to explain why I'm putting these images up. Go on.
Yeah. You've got a story from Sammy Mockbell, very well sourced, and I thought this show. I told him myself in the press lounge the other week. I said the show that with you, Soph, was excellent, and he did a piece about Jason Ato.
He's not a fan.
He did a piece about Jason Ato, who the piece was basically around how Arsenal are apparently impressed with Jason Ato's considered approach to the January window. I mean, that window from Jason Ato was nothing other than a failure. Like, he's done good work at Arsenal, don't get me wrong, and he's doing good work in terms of the summer with his work with the Zubimendi stuff. But the January window is not a window you finish and go, yeah, that guy's doing great. you just don't come out of it with that opinion. That's not the opinion to have. So
what's he doing? What's he doing that's good, Tom? That's not me. Like,
obviously,
that's me genuinely asking. So I don't know what this geezer's done. I have no idea.
My knowledge of his time at Arsenal, obviously, he joined kind of he's been at the club for a long, long time, but his main role has been with Edu since 2013.
Yeah,
and my understanding is that a lot of the deals that are done when Edu was at the club was kind of like Edu does a lot of the connecting between kind of the clubs and stuff and the agents, intermediaries and stuff like that. And Ato's kind of the guy that gets stuff done. Like, he does a lot of negotiations with the teams and gets the deal sorted out. So he's very involved in a lot of the transfers that have gone on. And since obviously Edu has left, there was stuff with the Martin Zubimendi deal that was done and was being done when Edu was here. And now Edu has left. Jason, of course, has taken on a lot of those responsibilities. So with Arsenal being in a very good position for the Zubimendi situation this summer, Ato is very much responsible for a lot of the good work that's led us to be in a very strong position there. But that's you're asking what he's done. That's what he's done. In terms of January,
did he do more than Edu? Then do you think is he more important than Edu? Or do they need each other? Like,
I think obviously as a team, you're obviously going to be weaker. You've lost. Edu had the contacts, right? Edu had the links into every club. Ato has gained those. Has gained a lot working with Edu, and everyone starts out somewhere. But from a personal point of view, I think Arsenal absolutely have to go out and hire someone externally to come in and take on that role with Ato staying, and continuing what good he has done. But if there
was he the closer?
I think it's probably a fair. I think that's probably a fair way to put it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of closing about Ato and his work at Arsenal, just from the little gems I have got from talking to some people around who are closer to it. But I think that Arsenal need to bring in someone that works with and above Jason Ato. That's not disrespect to him, but I just think that when you're in a window where you are the interim sporting director, and our manager's been more public than ever about the need for signings, and players have been very public, and the line has been very public about it from the club that we know that we're short and we need to bring in players. Whether or not there are financial restrictions, you have to work within the confines of what you can, and you have to be able to find a solution. And they didn't, and that's therefore a failure. So that's the frustration, I think, is that my absolute fear is that he gets it, like that, and they go with just him.
If they keep him.
Dan and Tom, I asked Charles Watts when he was on, because someone said they couldn't close a barn door, and maybe in hindsight, when you look at it, maybe Edu was the real closer. He's definitely the charmer. I think we all know that. But I asked Charles, for example, was it a case of them saying to Mikel, you either get Watkins now, but there's no money for you to play in the playground in the summer? Or was it a case of Mikel being his picky self, rightly so, in terms of his squad? He's not my guy. Sesko is my guy. Charles Watts had the impression that Mikel wanted Watkins, but the club didn't want to pay the money.
I don't think anyone actually knows, but I think we all have an opinion on it. And it's either the Cronkies aren't interested in allowing the money, or Mikel Arteta is waiting till the summer. And he's like, nah, I don't want anyone. I don't want any of those names. I want Sesko. If you can't get him to me now, it'll get to the summer. One of those things is true, and I don't think anyone knows what is true. We can all guess, and you guys have more links than me, right? I always say this. You have more contacts than me within the club and inside the club, and have more knowledge than me, right? But I can only give my opinions, what I think it looks like. And I just look at it right now, and it just looks, well, it looks a mess. Let's just say it how it is. It looks a mess. And as much as people criticised Edu, it definitely wasn't him, because he's gone, and this is absolutely abysmal. So it certainly wasn't Edu that was the issue, like people thought it was. And again, it's a guessing game. I was very, very critical of Edu in the last couple of windows in terms of, but that wasn't just Edu, it was the whole package, to be fair, but he was certainly involved in that. Again, now we're looking at a culmination of failure here. This isn't just Jason Ato, this isn't just Mikel Arteta, this isn't just the Cronkies, this is every single one of them. And I'm with Tom, I feel sorry for the players. If I'm Saliba now, I'm thinking, right, Real Madrid want me and this is what you're doing to try and keep me here? I might have to get off if this is how it works. And, you know, people think, oh, he won't say that. Damn, please don't say that. We all said that about Fabregas and Van Persie and Sanchez and all these guys. When they showed trophies, he went. Now, if this is what we're doing, getting back into the Champions League and being told we now get the world-class players in, we sprinkle the gold dust. And the gold dust is Merino, Sterling, Calafiori, Havertz, Timber, Raya and Rice. I think other than Rice and Timber, I think we look at the others and go, oh, really? Crikey, I didn't expect them. I mean, they're all good squad players, but who's going to take us to the next level out of that? And we haven't got that yet. And we're still waiting for who's going to get that across, who's going to take us across that line. Now, yes, it might come in the summer. I imagine that Zubimendi is coming to Arsenal from what Tom is saying in terms of what Sammy and David Ornstein and Jason Ato, work that he's done behind the scenes, all that stuff. I hope now Zubimendi does bloody come to Arsenal. Yeah, because if he doesn't come to Arsenal, that will just be a mess. If he goes to Real Madrid now or stays or whatever it be. Nico Williams keeps being mentioned. I don't know how true that is. Sesko is the guy that apparently you want. I don't know how true that is. I saw today a report that Isak could be going from Newcastle if they don't get Champions League. Are we in the race for that? Is that a realistic target? I hope so. That's everyone's number one. So we're going to have to wait now till the summer. And I keep saying it, but we have to keep singing Will Smith Summertime because that is all they care about. They do not care about the winter. They do not care about the winter, these guys, man. They're not interested. So I don't know. I don't know what happens at the club. People keep saying to me, what do you think? Who do you think? I have absolutely no idea. Does Mikel want a number 9? Can't answer that. Does the Cronkies not want him to have a number 9? Can't answer that. Do all of them just not want a number 9? It looks that way because they've had 5 years without one. Maybe they don't want a striker. They just want to win it with Havertz. I don't know. I can't answer any of these questions. I have absolutely no idea. I'll give my opinions on it. But right now, I'm not happy with our ownership at all. And I think they're a mess. So that's where I'm at.
Otzi, Summertime's a nice chill tune. The one that springs to mind for me is Bananarama's Cruel Summer. You know, I don't know if you remember that tune from back in the day. We could.
You know, let's go with that because I like Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff. Do you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I don't know how anyone can back what we've seen in this window. In the last 2 windows, it's been a shambles, and the ownership and the board have to hold a massive L. And I do put Mikel with that because he has got a powerful voice at the club from what we believe, and he needs to have more of a powerful voice because he should not have let this happen. And there's 2 ways. If this happens, everybody's watch. He needs to either go or kick up a massive fuss about it. That's what he needs to do. He can't just sit there and go, yeah, these are the most hungriest people in sport that I've ever worked with, and all this waffle that we now know is bullshit. He's got to actually act and do something about it. That's what I think.
I actually urge, if you have time, to listen to the Graham Hunter interview for everyone, because his insights into the Zubimendi thing and also Williams was really enlightening. And there's a chance that Zubimendi may stay at Real Sociedad. He's that homegrown, passionate about La Real. And so if you haven't listened to it, I would definitely urge you to listen to it. Also, what I asked him about Mikel Arteta and kind of tiring of eventually, if he doesn't get what he wants, if he's not supported at the Arsenal, is he kind of tied to Barcelona or Barcelona tied to him? And he didn't think so. He doesn't think that he has that same passion and relationship with Barcelona. There's been a separation, is what Graham talked about, you know, and I think it's clear that Mikel wants to win. I mean, anyone who thinks, this is the thing where the juxtaposition is, there's no defending the owners and the executives in this January transfer window, but I have defended them in the sense, Tom, that they've given him the support. They've spent a lot of money. Everyone, you know, on various shows and in the media talks about, well, he spent so much money. So it's not like the owners haven't supported him. Maybe we've spent the money in the wrong places, you know, and there's always criticism of that. So I just think that if you really want to win, you know, you talk to various people, whether you're on tour or do you do interviews, you know, money talks, bullshit walks, actions speak louder than words. And I just find it incredible that such ambitious business people, owners or manager, aren't building on what we've built the last 2 seasons, Tom. And I think that's the tragedy of all of this. I'm Greek. I like a tragedy. I don't want it to be an Arsenal tragedy, but It's the same thing when we had Santi and Ozil and Alexis Sanchez. You know, get a defense, get a striker. We keep doing the same. And this is where I understand, you know, fellow YouTubers or fans being angry. You know, I did a whole thing of, you know, don't be abusive, be angry, be the supporter you want to be. But the evidence is there, is it not? Am I being harsh?
No, I don't. I hate I hate knowing shit like because it puts me in a position where like I want to be really angry and I am angry about January. Don't get me like I'm angry about it. I think I've said what I've said about January and I've said it to people you know who I have spoken at the club said I think January was unacceptable. And I said in conversations I've said you've put an awful lot of pressure on the summer. Like you can't not land top targets in the summer after that January, because if you don't land a Sesko, if you don't land an Isak, if you don't land a Gyökeres, if you don't land the striker in the summer, you have nowhere to go. Like absolutely nowhere to go. I think personally, for me, the reason why they haven't landed the striker up until this point is because they feel, and I think there is good arguments that player's not been there, or the players that people think are there. There are reasons behind why they've not either gone for them or been able to go for them. You know, I know that Victor Osimhen's name gets talked about a lot. I had heard a rumor that his wage demands were, let's just say they put Chelsea off at the end of the summer window, and that's why he didn't go to Chelsea on deadline day in the summer. So that should give you an indication about what type of money he's looking for. And I think that's probably why Man United are one of the only teams that are being linked with him for the summer at the moment now in terms of Premier League, because they're the only team that are mad enough to pay those types of crazy wages. So when it comes to Isak, we know that that's a price tag that if they do even miss out on Champions League football, for instance, you're still going to be paying triple £1 million figures for him. And that means you're probably sacrificing other areas of your investment in terms of the team. And there's a lot of turnover. And some of that turnover, we're not getting any money. Partey's going to go on a free. Jorginho's going to go on a free. Jesus isn't being sold anymore because he's injured. Tomiyasu's not being sold anymore because he's injured. Reece Nelson's just had a hamstring surgery. He's not going anywhere because he's injured. Zinchenko's going to get you next to nothing. Tierney's going for nothing. So money did come in the door last summer, but the players, in terms of what we might get money for, you've got, as I mentioned, Zinchenko, might get a measly fee. Kivior, you might get a 15 million for him.
Do you think we should try and sell like a Martinelli or something then, Tom?
I think that's if Arsenal are going to spend really big, I think one of the big ones are going to have to go. And Martinelli, I've always said if you've got a player that's worth something at Arsenal that could go, other than maybe like a Saliba, which I think is a non-negotiable from my position. I don't think you can risk. I don't think you can do that unless you get offered, 150 odd million quid or whatever. Even then, I don't think I'm saying yes, because I think he's a ticket toward a title. So Martinelli's the one you look at and go, yeah, maybe he's the guy. You keep Trossard and you bring in a top left-sided forward as well, and bring in that striker that we know that we need as well. So it's it's one of those, the reason why I said I hate having knowledge is because obviously you've already got people in the chat, for instance, saying like these are just excuses, and I'm like, I'd love to be in that position, that blissful not knowing what's going on, so it's easy to say it's excuses. I'm just saying what I'm aware of. Like, that's all I'm doing. It's not about making an excuse. I'm just telling you what it is. And what I thought it was a massive failure in January, and it has put an awful lot of pressure on the summer. And if they don't do what needs to be done, then I do look at Arteta as a manager that could look at the situation and go, well, I've taken Arsenal to a title race in 3 years, established us in a team that can challenge, and we're on far less money than what Pep and Klopp had available to them, and you're not giving me what I need. So why would I stick around?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are selling Martinelli down the river a little bit this season. He's been a bit of a scapegoat, was coming back into good form.
I'm not saying he's bad, Soph. I'm just saying if there's a player that you would sell for a good price, it's probably
wouldn't Trossard fetch, like, how much would he fetch for a Saudi move? 30?
Yeah, maybe. But is that a transformational sale that gives you the ability
What does Martinelli give you, 10 million more?
No, I think Martinelli, you're looking at least 50 to 60 million. At least.
Surely. We have to be. If Eddie Nketiah is going for 30, Martinelli's double that.
50,
that's 60. Another area we need to be better at, right? Is value assets. And, you know. All right. Dan's going to go off to his show. We're going to wrap up here. Potsy, what is your parting shot for the squaddies? What do you want to say? We've got all these games coming up. We've got a depleted squad. But you know what? Just when people think you're here, it's like, you know, Al Pacino in The Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Don't go yet, Potsy. Keep the hope alive. It's not over till the fat referee blows the whistle. Tell him. What do you want to tell him?
You know what I will say to wrap? Believe in Ethan Nwaneri, because this kid's special, mate. This kid is special. And if there is no way you can get lifted off of your seat, then just watch him, because he will lift you off your seat. He is that type of player. And we're lucky to have had him. We are so lucky he did not go out on loan, or that we didn't believe he was ready and he was a kid in the under 18s that he doesn't want to trust. Trust me, this kid is sensational. And him and Lewis Skelly might end up being two of our best players this season when it gets to May. I'll leave you on that. Love, though, both of you. Absolute legends.
Love you too. Really see you later, Potsy. Have a good show. Be listening while I work. Mr. Canton, what do you want your parting shot to be? I mean, some people agree with you, some don't.
Cheer up, mate.
Listen, I'm a dreamer. I said it on my little short that I did. Please go watch that in the video section. You know, be the fan you want to be. If you still believe. If you don't, if you want to be a pessimist, a realist, and all that jazz. Tom, it's a painful season. There's no doubt about it, and there's still like a few months to go. What's your parting comment for the squaddies, or do you just want to leave it? Cheer up.
No, I don't want to tell fans to cheer up, because I think they've got reasons to be annoyed. You know, so it's one of those situations. We've been in situations in the past, like when Arsenal were putting in performances like we saw last season. There were some losers still moaning, crying, and whinging. But this season, you know, there is real reason to be annoyed and frustrated. So I empathise with that irritation. I do. I think you just got to take it a game at a time. I think expectations for me of tempered. I'm with Dan. You know, I don't think we can win the league. I don't think we can win the Champions League this season, based upon everything that's happened this season, both in and outside of our control. So I'm just taking it a game at a time. You know, the ironic thing is, if Liverpool say in a week's time, the title could be in Arsenal's hands again. That's how crazy it is. Because if we beat West Ham and Liverpool get a point from their next two games, the title somehow, ridiculously, back in Arsenal's hands. That's how ridiculous this season is. So, yeah, look, I don't think that'll happen, for the record, but it is an example of just how mental things are right now. And yeah, I just have other interests. Don't put all your eggs in football, because it's just a game. It's just not losing your head over. So yeah. And I'm going to go to the gym now and you know, practice what I preach. So
do it, Tom. Do it. Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. By the way, guys, check the description, because the Kevin Campbell Foundation are putting on an evening with the Arsenal supporters group, an evening with football legends Lee Dixon, Paul Davis, Alan Smith, and Andrew Cole, who is also an ambassador. All of these guys ambassadors to the foundation. Look out for the description. It's in March. There's going to be plenty of time to get tickets, but you're going to want to get them fast, because it's going to be an absolutely epic event, and all the proceeds go towards the Kevin Campbell Foundation. Tom, thank you again. Squaddies at ease. Got some great guests coming up. Look out on the community page for all of the information. Have a good workout, Tom. Squaddies, don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. And at ease, everyone. Night, night. Sweet dreams.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.